You've got a 4.6. How smart are you?
I have no idea what I'm gonna do today, or tomorrow, or for the rest of my life.
So, no plans?
No.
Good for you.
Lip is your typical badass. He's irreverent, he's a rule breaker, he's a rebel, surprisingly kind, insanely intelligent, and very loyal to his family.
He'll really do anything for them. He's a fiercely loyal person, not only to his family, but these other people that come into his lives. He comes to their defense and loves these people very fiercely.
Lip Gallagher is by far the smartest Gallagher, but perhaps the one who cares the least about his future, even though he would have the most promising one.
He's always 2 steps ahead of any adult that is trying to manipulate him or trying to encourage him or trying to get him to be a better person.
Part of the fun of writing that character is writing someone who's so intelligent, who could go to such great places if he chooses them, and yet he's a teenager. And like a lot of teenagers, there are a lot of different emotions boiling underneath the surface, and he's still figuring out who he is and what he wants out of life.
I think you shouldn't have applied to colleges for me without asking me.
I did ask you. I asked you like 100 times to get the applications in, and you ignored me.
For a reason.
What reason? That you're an idiot? That you want to waste your life laying around in this shithole neighborhood forever?
This sense of loyalty is so hyper-developed as a reaction against his father and his own fears of becoming his father. There is almost this constant conflict in any situation for him to try to be his better side, to overcompensate and be too good.
Frank Gallagher is a very cynical person. He's someone who doesn't believe the best about people. He's someone who has buried his talents and used them for nefarious purposes.
Frank's a con artist, and he's always looking for a scam. Lip is a rebel, but he's not looking to take anything from anybody except where it actually benefits his family.
I think Frank's a little bit more unaware of how he reacts, or he doesn't care, and Lip is burdened with the awareness of how his actions hurt other people.
Lip sees in Frank something in him that scares himself, and that makes him despise Frank even more.
I remember the first time I brought you here.
Fuck you, you never took me skating.
I always took you skating to the park, to the zoo. You tried to make off with a tortoise.
That was you.
Huh.
I think all of the Gallagher kids live in fear of becoming Frank Gallagher, and perhaps Lip the most. He's such a smart guy.
The only way to make money when you're poor is to steal it or scam it. But hey, let me know if the rules are changing.
He drinks and smokes a lot. Rarely do you see him when he doesn't have a fag in his mouth and a beer in his hand. So I think it must occur to Lip a lot. Oh boy, am I going down that road? At what point am I my dad?
My partner works for this city, but just because we're not married, which the law doesn't allow, I might add, I can't share in his insurance benefits.
I think Frank was probably a lot like Lip when he was younger. Frank is incredibly smart. I mean, his brain is now mush from drugs and alcohol. And I think there is a chance that Lip could, if, you know, he abused himself to that point, could become something like Frank. And the interesting thing is, for me, and hopefully for the viewers, is just seeing where Lip will hopefully have that gear change that gets him away from becoming more like Frank.
What he doesn't know is that he passed that point a long time ago. He is his dad, because we all are, aren't we?
Cuff me before I get disorderly. Be brave, son.
I think that's his blind spot. I think that he has such anger toward his father and has created such distance between him and his father that he thinks there's no possible way he could ever be like Frank.
You know, I have nothing but respect for this court and for the rule of law that it represents. You know, the rights that we've derived from over 900 years of fealty to the Magna Carta are the only thing standing between us and the anarchy of mob rule.
I think, unfortunately, Lip seems to be falling into the trap that a lot of people do of falling into similar routines of your parents without even noticing what you were doing. I think eventually someone's gonna have to say to him, you know you're following in the same pattern as your father, and rather than rebelling against it, he's gonna have to really take a look at himself and realize, I am, and why am I doing that?
Taking the SAT?
Not unless someone's paying me.
He's at a crossroads in his life right now where he has a choice and has opportunities to go to college, but he also has the attitude and the mentality and the disposition to become Frank and just drink and be lost and say fuck you to the system.
Frank is someone who was probably in a very similar place to Lips when he was 17, 18 years old, and he chose his path, which included a lot of alcohol and a lot of irresponsibility, and Lip has that option too.
You've got a character that's addicted to commitment, addicted to the idea of not being Frank, to staying true to those who he loves, to staying with them, to being there. It's a misguided sense of loyalty. For such an extraordinary intellect, he's emotionally very unformed, as young men tend to be. So I worry that Lip is Frank 30 years ago.
Guess this is where I'm supposed to, thank you for never giving up on me. I'll see you, Dick.
I think Lip is smart enough to know that he's in danger of becoming something he doesn't want to be, and the epitome of what he doesn't want to be is Frank. I think if he's got half a brain in his head, he knows that he gets tanked every time things get tough.
He puts himself in these situations that are just brutal and hurt so much. And, you know, you can only do that for so long without kind of going off the edge and abusing drugs and alcohol, especially in a neighborhood like this.
I think there's a danger that Lip could end up like Frank. However, I think with like Fiona's influence and also the responsibility I think Lip feels as the man of the house, I think that keeping the family together will spur him on to be better than Frank, even if he doesn't leave the neighborhood.
There are a lot of people that probably want to see Lip go off to college, get out of the neighborhood, do this and that, and I think one of the big hang-ups for Lip is he's so comfortable and thrives so much in the environment that he's in.
He doesn't want to be different from everyone in the neighborhood. He wants to be part of this family unit. He doesn't necessarily want to have to be the one who is the great white hope of the family. I think that's too much of a responsibility for him now as a 17-year-old boy.
It's pretty scary for Lip to go out into the real world and see how smart he is then.
You're just like me. We march to the beat of a different drummer. Everyone will try to cage you in, tell you have to worry about your future. You know what your future should be? This.
I don't think Lip would ever end up like Frank. Frank has a pompous and a hubris about him that makes him kind of ultimately ugly inside. And Lip has a kindness and a vulnerability that Frank just doesn't seem to have.
Frank is a scam artist and a failure, and I think that Lip in his own way is trying to be a success.
My fear for Lip is that he will become Frank. In the reality of the Lips out there, that is, you know, very often the case where potential is not nurtured because of the blatant injustice of the system. The waste is heartbreaking, and to a character of Lip's intellect, that will turn into cynicism and bitterness very quickly.
I think his interest would be piqued if he went to school, and he would be happier in general if he did go to school, but he's afraid of that, and if he doesn't, I would think that he would live the rest of his life very unhappily.
Are you gonna go?
And could very easily become someone like Frank Gallagher.